Let's talk Big 12 media here. The naming rights. Saul Bookman, I am a big fan of the naming rights. I do not care what the name of the conference is. If it gets you $50 more million, $80 more million, I don't care what it is. We're all about money at this stage of the game. If that closes the gap a little bit, I say go for it.
1,000,000% you go for it. Without a doubt, you don't even stop. I'm trying to think. Kansas would be the only thing that would stop, would prevent a brand like Nike sponsoring a whole conference because they're an Adidas school.
Right.
Ooh, Kansas. But like,
Right.
yeah, if you're the Big 12, this is what I love about Brett Yormark in the short time that we've kind of known him. Smart guy, knows exactly what he would like to see the future of the conference look like. He knows exactly who he's identifying in order to get them into the conference. B, he is very, very good at thinking and outside the box.
Yes.
And in today's day and age of the digital world and the opportunities for NIL, it's okay for brands to now go outside the box. You see stadiums and schools are thinking about putting logos on their fields as well. Like, this just makes way too much sense. I love Brett Yormark for doing this. This is a home run. Whoever you get, it'll be a home run, as long as it's not some janky ass freaking sponsorship.
Brad?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think outside the box, but it has to be intelligent. I believe Larry Scott thought outside the box by wanting to play games in China, and things like that. No, but corporate sponsors are the way of the future. Again, as Saul says, you don't want to be the, Manny's Auto Repair, for $50 as a corporate sponsor. But yes, a legitimate insurance company, things like that make perfect sense. Obviously, we as college football and college basketball people don't want to see the abundance of logos, but we're already at the point where the video boards on the side of the basketball court have local and national sponsors. We're used to uniforms having a Nike logo. I don't think whatever it is, an all-state logo, or if someone wants to put a Circle K logo on it.
I like that idea.
Ironically enough, one of my jobs during college was selling advertising for the old Ice Cats, and one of the deals the only deal I was actually able to sell was the face-off circle had a Circle K logo instead of a red dot. So
yeah, and honestly, people don't really care in this day and age. Look at it this way: I grew up where it was Boston Garden and the Great Western Forum. Nobody calls it that anymore. It's certainly something for the past, but it's TD Waterhouse now. Now again, it sounds weird at first, but that's just the way it is now. You're looking to capitalize off stuff, and Brett Yormark again. This is the guy that basically has been ahead of the curve the entire step of the way. Keep in mind, when this dude took over the Big 12, they said that, this conference was going to fall apart because you're losing Texas and Oklahoma. You're going to get it'll be a leftover. It'll be a Mountain West. He said a couple things that I thought was interesting. He said, we're going to add schools that we want. We are going to get everybody a raise, and we are going to remain on linear platforms. He did all of that while the Pac-12 just sat around. This is a dude of action. And I will always, especially after the Larry Scott era and the Kliavkoff, I will always take action, Saul, over, well, we hope that this works out. Hopefully it lands in our lap. This dude gets it.
1,000,000%. Again, man, we can go on and on and on about all the things that Larry Scott just completely jacked up, and then that George Kliavkoff couldn't figure out before it was too late. We could do that. We could probably spend a whole week of episodes on that. But right. Brett Yormark gets it. He understands the perspective. He understands where the future of college sports is going, and that's the most important thing. Larry Scott was so foolish in thinking that everybody was just going to stand pat, or there would only be one or two teams that move a conference here and there, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's all over for the Pac-12. Brett Yormark is being very aggressive. He's being active. He's still looking at other potential schools, especially from the ACC, to potentially come over to the Big 12. You look at a school like Gonzaga. We've heard about UConn. We've heard about a lot of different schools that might potentially join the conference. At the end of the day, I truly believe we'll end up having just the three conferences, obviously, and it might even morph into two at some point. But who's going to be the one that's going to be the big dog? Well, right now, the Big 12 is growing at a rapid pace. You want to get on board before it's too late.
Right. Exactly, Brad.
I mean, at worst, Yormark is positioning the Big 12 to be the number 3 conference. And frankly, with what do they call it? The SESPN or whatever, and the Big 12, obviously, or the Big 10, very much linked to Fox. If you can position yourself as number 3, and keep the ACC as the clear number 4, or even a possible merger. Now, unfortunately, what I don't like is the reason I like college sports is they're not the NFL, they're not MLB, they're not the NBA. So I think if it comes down to 2 super conferences, I think that could be the eventual, I won't say death knell, but I think you could see an overcorrection the other way where we splinter back into 20 conferences. But Yormark, again, if you're at worst number 3 when the dust settles, I think you're in a good position because there's plenty of money to go around. And even, again, if you're really just trying to keep pace with the other 2 and distance yourself from the ACC, which is, essentially Clemson and FSU bolting away from being in big trouble.
Right. And and I thought Dave Hickey made a really good point one time when he was on here. He said, listen, he says, there's going to be another blow up in college athletics. He said, the most important thing for Arizona is to be able to be at an entity where when that blow up does occur, you're going to be one that is going to be suited for. And he said, if a school, and, this is obviously Oregon State, Washington State we're talking about, but if schools like that get left out and they're in the Mountain West or whatever, they might not have a seat at the table. Again, this is going to be something that's going to be different. The most important thing was getting stability. Yormark provides that, and he's thinking outside the box here. Now, is this going to close the gap entirely with the SEC and the Big Ten? No, of course not. But he's still finding ways to get his schools more money, and this probably won't be the last thing that he figures out as well. On top of, he's clearly made it a point, Saul, that he wants this to be the best basketball conference in the country, and he succeeded at that.
No, I totally agree. The SEC owns football right now. Yeah, you have your Michigan and Ohio States, and I get that. But the SEC is the SEC, and that's what that conference is known for. They're known for their legendary football programs. The Big 12 can absolutely make a case that they're going to be known for basketball. So you want to be known for one of those 2 things, right? You want to be the premier conference in one of those 2 things. And I think the more the Big 12 continues to expand, the more that Brett Yormark realizes, like, yes, football is going to drive in revenue. We make no bones about it. They drive in the most revenue, but that doesn't mean that we can't be known for something that is elite. And being the elite basketball conference in the country is certainly going to be that for the Big 12. And then you just hope that the drop off between the excellence of basketball and football is not significant enough to ruin your conference's brand. And right now it isn't. You got some solid teams that are going to be in the top 15 in the country starting off the season this year in football. And you hope 1 or 2 of them are going to make the college football playoff and then really make a run. And we've seen that in the past with TCU. We've seen that with Baylor. We've seen that with other schools that are toy around with that elite status in the top 5. So if you can continue to do that, I mean, it would be great, and it'd be gravy for the conference, and more money will start to come in during the next deal.
Right. I also think, Brad, that basketball is underrated in the grand scheme of things. I think that this is something where football schools just like to look down and say, oh, that's basketball. we do not deal with that. Listen, March Madness is the biggest entity in all of sports for a month period. You look at the inventory on ESPN, ABC from about November through March, that's loaded with stuff. And that's basketball. Basketball not going anywhere. And so when Yormark said that I think that there's an untapped area in basketball, I totally agree with him. I've always agreed with him. Not that that's the reason that he is saying that. I don't think he knows that I am saying that. But
well, I think what you see is there's a couple fold. One is as he looks at the landscape of media moving forward, the need for live inventory on streaming services is huge.
Right.
The 3 things to look at. 1 is college basketball. 2 is the 2 extremes of the combat sports. 1 is, mixed martial arts, and the other being professional wrestling. And they're all getting money thrown at them by streaming services because of the need for things that people have to sit through ads because you don't want the results. And I think the other thing you're looking at is while the NBA is doing very well, the NBA is as popular as it's ever been, the bulk of the NBA is still in the north, the big cities, Northeast, West Coast. Where is it not as strong? The Southeast, and that's one reason SEC football is so big. You got 2 football. You used to have 2 football teams out there. Now you got 4 or 5. The Midwest. I mean, yes, the upper Midwest with Indianas and Ohio's and things like that. But there's no team in Kansas City. There's 1 team in Oklahoma. There's, a little bit in Texas. That's a lot of television sets that are still going to tune into college basketball.
Right.
And if you can be a premium game once, twice, 3 times a week, because you have 9, 10, 11 teams. You know, as many Suns fans as there are in Tucson, it's still a college town.
Right.
Kansas City, Missouri, which is again a mid-sized media market, that's Kansas basketball. And until they get a new version of the Kansas City Kings there, it will remain a college basketball hotbed. So I think what Yormark is saying is streaming services are going to need college football is great. It's once a week. You know, Big 12 is 2 games times 16 teams, and it might be 18 teams, it might be 20 teams. That's a lot of
time slots.
That's a lot of inventory. And again, if you bring in UConn, you bring in Gonzaga as basketball only entities, you add that to Arizona, Kansas, Baylor, Iowa State, even people who don't care about those locations per se, who enjoy good basketball are going to watch those games. And that is going to provide additional money. And again, if it's marketed right, you're going to have people wanting to see a preview of the NCAA tournament, B, the future NBA players. And I think college basketball has not necessarily done a great job marketing their young players because they are one and done. And again, I've said that has gone a long way into Caitlin Clark's popularity as you got 3 years of her notoriety. But again, Yormark is a marketer. He'll find ways to market these players and these teams.
I think the interesting thing here is that if you look at the NFL right now and how everything is starting to be kind of disseminated on various platforms. I mean, I swear you got to pay like $500 for the year to not only get like DirecTV Sunday Ticket, but then you got to get YouTube TV and you got to get Amazon. And then I think there's another service right now that's going to be exclusive.
Netflix is going to have games.
Netflix. Yeah. So like it's a variety of different angles and different platforms. And I think some of these schools or some of these conferences are going to take a look at that and be like, okay, why sign a $500 million deal for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years with ESPN when maybe we could do 300 million and then we can pick up another 150 here and another 150 here and another 150 here, spread it out, make more money as a whole for your conference. And I think that's probably going to be something that they're going to take a look at. And I would be shocked if Brett Yormark isn't already looking at that because there are some prime opportunity. And I don't say that with a pun. I think there's some prime opportunity on Amazon. Amazon is starting to build out their sports packaging. You look at a bunch of different platforms. Netflix is now starting to get into the game, obviously with the NFL. They've already got into the documentary side of sports with all these different specialty programs. You would be foolish to think, and this is the one thing about the Pac-12 that I absolutely disagreed on with everybody else. You heard everybody saying, oh, well, Apple TV would be a terrible deal. Apple TV would be a bad deal because of this, this, and this, and this. No, Apple TV should have been part of the deal. It shouldn't be the entire deal. And if they would have done their due diligence and made Apple like not the exclusive partner, but a partner and got that money, and then also attached it to like maybe Amazon or ESPN or whoever else, then that would have made far more sense. You would have been able to build that package across the board. But instead, they were trying to be exclusive with Apple, which I didn't think was a terrible. How many people have a damn iPhone or have some type of Apple product in their house? Like most people do. And so the fact that people were saying that like, it would be hard to find those games. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be any more difficult than turning on your streaming service that you have now. What's the difference? And so I thought that they were okay on that side. I just thought that they got a lot of flack for nothing.
I think the thing, and I argued this with Mike, is kids, and I say kids being probably 25 and under, consume content differently than we do. Yeah. What do I do when I get home? I turn on DirecTV, figure out what game is on, right? Or, for me, what cooking show is on, what wrestling is. Kids don't. They watch YouTube. They watch YouTube. So what does my son do? Dad, Logan Paul's fighting, and now it's been canceled, but Logan Paul or Jake Paul's fighting Mike Tyson. Do we have Netflix? Well, yeah, we got Netflix. The other day, hey, Joey Chestnut got banned from that. Apparently, he's eating on Netflix on the same day. Can we watch that? They watch stream content to figure out what to watch later.
Yes.
My son, plays baseball. He devours the Bat Bros. If anyone knows the Bat Bros, Trevor Bauer. So he wants to say, hey, can we get Mexican baseball? Because that's what Trevor Bauer is playing. So I think what you're going to do is if you are smart with it, let's say the Big 12 is being streamed on Apple. Well, then Apple should be flooding whatever, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever, with videos of their content. So kids go, hey, I want to watch Kansas, Arizona. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And I think, again, because I don't think, obviously the basketball diehards are flipping on, but a lot of kids who are your future consumers are going to be like, I want to watch that because I saw a trailer, because I saw a video, because, let's use an example. Caleb Love has his own streaming channel, and I saw his video, and he was dunking 360s. I want to watch him play against Kansas or Duke. Or that's how I think it's going to be consumed in the future. And if you're at the forefront of, again, do you need some network over there? Yes, because there's still a lot of 40, 50, 60-year-old people who have deep pocketbooks, but your future audience is streaming, and they're primarily streaming.
The problem with the deal, though, is that, yes, while streaming is the wave of the future, nobody wanted to go into straight streaming. And the problem, though, too, is that no school wanted to hear from Apple because it was going to be exclusively Apple. Apple was only going to do this if it was just exclusively Apple. And so when Apple comes to you with a $24 million deal and they try pitching you saying, but guess what? After 2 or 3 years, this can blow up into 38, 39, $40 million. If you're a school, you just can't go with that at that point.
Yeah, no, 1,000,000% you can't.
Right, because you've been sold that BS nonstop about how there's going to be money at the end of the table. There was none of that.
It was the right idea with the wrong plan.
Yes.
Or
exactly.
or the wrong idea of the right theme.
If these conferences are smart, they're going to use linear as the baseline and the stability platform while they continue to grow the digital products. And then there's going to be a threshold moment or a flashpoint moment where linear becomes less relevant than digital. And when that happens, you'll see a super shift the other way, and it'll be hard to get linear channels, streaming or broadcasting any sports.
Yeah, but to see, that's also kind of and we're going to get to basketball here in a second, but that's also kind of just kind of the malfeasance of the Pac-12 is that they thought when they had a deal from ESPN, when ABC, and they're like, well, we're going to sit on this one. And then Brett Yormark's like, all right, I'm going to take that deal. I need stability. I need that linear aspect.